Gaming, this is your man, Ghetto Prophecy, with more online multiplayer battles. So here, I'm playing as the Picts. My opponent is playing as the Danes. So, of course, I guerrilla deploy all the way up as far as I can into this forest. Now, he has these Viking Raider cavalry all the way out here in this forest, and he doesn't even realize this. But I see him, so I'm going to charge him with my Mortimer cavalry and bring up infantry support. So he's pulling away now, but I already got the charge off. So I'm going to be able to catch him, because I've already hit charge speed. You can see, look at how fast they're dropping already. Already losing a lot of people. The rest of his infantry is all over here. I'm positioning my crossbowmen and my swordsmen and my axes to take his army at an angle. That's the one thing I do love about the Celtic factions, is that they have really cheap crossbows. Other than that, I really don't like their armies. Their cav sucks dick. Like the Mortimer cav is, it's cost effective, but it's just not gonna stand up to any good cav units at all. It won't stand up to Noble Germanics. It won't stand up to Nordic War swords. It definitely won't stand up to any cataphracts. So here, I'm able to beat these cav units because the Viking Raider cav, they don't have spears, they have axes, so they're not even good at fighting against cavalry. And here he's bringing up his Nordic spearmen, but I hit him in the back with my Pictish swordsmen. And these swordsmen, they have the elite swords, so they do 10 piercing damage, either 10 or 14 depending on the unit. By the way, they do a lot of piercing damage. It's 50 in total, 50 total damage. The regular swords only do 40. So here he's gonna surround my Pictish swordmen with herdmen. So I charge into his line with my axemen, my Pictish axemen. Got a nice scrap going on here in the forest between the Celts and the Danes. So this guy, he's playing the Danes, and he brings no axe units aside from his general. And he brings no Nordic horse lords. So if you play as a Nordic faction, the Saxons, Jutes, Danes, or the Geats, and you bring no axes and no Nordic horse lords, expect to lose. So over here, my cavalry has destroyed his two Viking Raider cav over here. Over here, his other two Viking Raider cav is just charging into the back of his own guys, so they're really not doing anything. They need to swing around and hit my guys in the side like his infantry is about to do. I'm rushing in my general, my followers of Morrigan. They're berserker unit, but they really don't do that much damage, and they're not that tanky. I don't know, a lot of the Celtic units are really finicky, so here is a micro mistake. I try to have my crossbowmen shoot at his cavalry, but I noticed that they just got all blobbed up, so I'm pulling him back. And now I've charged into the back of all of his archers. His Nordic bows aren't that big of a threat, but they will do a lot of damage if I give them time to shoot freely. So I've got all these free units on my left flank, so I'm just going to surround him and wrap him up. So this unit is holding down this unit. These swords are going to charge in the back of this blob, and this sword unit is going to go all the way around and either hit those guys in the back or support the cavalry fight against his general. So here, I am demolishing these Nordic spearmen with my crossbows. I have all 5 crossbow units targeting down 1 unit at a time. I need to be shooting at these chosen warriors though. However, since I have my cav over here, I kind of want to get rid of the spearmen first, because my cav, they can get rid of the swordsmen from rear charges. But if there's spearmen there, then they're going to be able to deal with my cavalry. However, luckily these Nordic spearmen aren't that tough, and they weren't braced, so I go in for a charge. And it says I'm going to beat them, so I stay in the combat. I thought about pulling out, but I waited for 1 second and it said I would win the fight, so I just decided to stay in. So over here I'm targeting the chosen warriors with my crossbows. They're all on heavy shot. Now these two units over here, they definitely should have been targeting these herdmen, because I could get shots into the back of these herdmen. Because these two units are shooting over my units, doing probably a lot of friendly fire. And the reason I need to shoot the chosen warriors is because they have over 100 morale. So what that means is they're pretty much not going to run away. They're for the most part going to fight to the last man in most circumstances. So I need to get rid of them first, because they're going to fight to the death. My units will not. Well, actually, the axemen will. The Pictish axemen, they also have over 100 morale, so they will also fight to the death. Like, see this guy? 8 men left, still fighting, not even worried. You know, normal units just don't do that. So here, he charges into my general, and I'm just the damage, just demolishing this guy's his units inside and in the rear with my Pictish crossbowmen. That really is like the one thing I like about the Celtic units, the Celtic armies, is their cavalry is cheap and it's fast, but it's just so weak. These guys just fucking die to anything. But the crossbows are cheap and they're effective, so I really like the crossbows. The infantry is... The swordsmen are pretty good for the most part. But the biggest problem I have is that none of them have precursors. None of the Picts infantry have any precursors. You know, the javelins they throw before they charge. And that is a big problem. So that basically gives all the enemy cavalry, you know, a big sign over their head saying, hey Cav, charge me, I don't have javelins to throw at you. You know, come fucking wreck my soul with your charge. That's basically what it screams. And that's what I know when I fight the Celtic factions. I'm like, oh, I can just charge their infantry because they don't have precursor javelins. And if this guy brought a bunch of Nordic axe warriors, he'd have nothing to worry about because none of my infantry have precursors. I'd have to charge all his Nordic axe warriors with my shitty, frail ass Mortimer cavalry, get hit by his precursors, get wrecked, probably lose all my cav, and then try to charge in my infantry, and then he would have free cav to run around, and I'd have to try to snipe them with my crossbows. It would have been, it's just bad. Like, the Celts, it's really hard to win as the Celts against a good meta build of shock cav and shock infantry. Like, if you try to fight the Eastern Roman Empire with Clubinarii and Heterea guards, like, I mean, you can do it. You know, anything's possible, but fuck, like, it is gonna be really, really goddamn hard because Clubinarii will just wreck your cav. They'll wreck anything that they get a charge on. There's no unit you can throw at them to just hold them down for a while. No, like, you just have to outplay him, which is, you know, if the player's as good as you, that's really hard to do because his units will just rape the fuck out of your units. You know, Heterea guards charging in at any of my infantry, you know, they'll just destroy my infantry, especially because, you know, my infantry don't have precursor javelins. But anyways, I won this fight mainly due to the fact that my opponent brought no Nordic horse lords, because Nordic horse lords would have annihilated my Mortimer cavalry, and he brought no axemen, none whatsoever. It would have been better if he even brought the Nordic axe warband, which are the one-handed axes. That would have been better than spamming all these herdmen. Now, herdmen are great units. They're pretty cheap and they're cost-effective for the price. However, he could have replaced these spearmen or even these chosen warriors with a whole bunch of axes and could have just ran my infantry over. So basically, that's pretty much why I won. Is he didn't use his spearmen effectively. It's really hard to use spearmen effectively in Attila. Most meta builds don't even use spearmen at all. They just use shock infantry or good swordsmen to support cavalry fights. They don't even bother with spearmen because they're just really hard to use cost effectively. So that's pretty much what happened. His cavalry got caught. His cavalry wasn't cost effective and he had no axes, so that's what happened pretty much. So another note, this battle was only on medium funds. On large funds, the Celts are much weaker because they don't have as many top tier expensive units as most other factions, other than their one-handed weapon infantry units. Like these Celtic, or not the Celtic warriors, but the Pictish swordsmen, they cost 700, and the Black Blades, they cost, I think, 725. So, you know, that's, you know, pretty pricey for a sword unit. You know, they're worth that price, I think. Maybe a little less, but actually, yeah, I'd say they're definitely worth less than 725. But that's the price you pay for guerrilla deployment, I guess. And these axemen, I think they're like, they're definitely over 600. I know that they're at least 650. So they're not cheap. These Pictish swords, the Black Blades, and the Pictish axemen, they're not cheap. But the Mortimer cav, they're cheap. I think they're only like 500 or 550. The Celtic crossbows, they're not even. They're only like 180. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they're only 180. So, and you know, this is my best, you know, archer slash crossbow unit. So I basically brought all my best units. I brought my most expensive general, and I still had room for some upgrades. And this was on medium funds. So on large funds, you're basically just putting upgrades on all your units, where everyone else is getting actually better units. Like if he wanted to, if we played on large funds, he could have, you know, made all these Viking Raider Cav Nordic, or actually Viking Raider Cav is the most expensive cav they have, but he shouldn't have taken these. He should have taken Nordic Horse Lords. He could have made these guys, you know, the more expensive Nordic Javelin Men. He could have, instead of having Herdmen and Nordic Spearmen, he could have had Nordic Axe Warriors and just a shit ton of Chosen Warriors or something like that. You know, he could have taken all his expensive units, whereas the Picts, I would have swapped out the Pictish Swordsmen and the Celtic Warriors for Black Blades, but that's not that much. It's only 25 more from Pictish Swordsmen to Black Blades, and then I'm just putting a crap ton of upgrades on my units, which isn't that effective. You know, I still have this shitty cav, which surprisingly did really well. So there you go. A win with the Picts. It's pretty hard. It's really hard, especially like it is. If the player's of equal skill to you, and you bring any of the Celtic factions on like a regular, fairly open map, and your opponent brings like a meta build of, you know, shock cav and shock infantry, like you're just gonna get wrecked. You have to be a lot better than your opponent to win, because their builds will counter yours. If he brings like the Huns, any of the factions I highlighted in my factions video, you know, the Huns, the Eastern Roman Empire, the Roman Expedition, the Alans, the Sassanids, any of those 5 factions, you're just gonna get wrecked because their armies just counter yours. Simple as that. You have no heavy cav to fight the enemy cav, so your cav's just gonna get ran the fuck over, and your infantry is just gonna get ran the fuck over by shock infantry, and you can't really do much about it. You have to really outplay your opponent. So if he's of equal skill to you, you're just gonna die. So Celts, it's really hard. I really don't recommend this DLC. I decided to buy it yesterday. I don't know. I just felt like trying it because I have Scottish blood. So I was like, why not? Let's buy the Celtic DLC and play the Picts. Anyways, thanks for watching.